You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. Tonight, delight, marvel, and immerse yourself in the vocal art of Polycoro. Microcosm features new pieces by North American composers focusing on contemporary sounds. And to hear more about it, I'm joined by John Wiens. Welcome back to the program, John. Great to see you.
Hi, Simon. Good to be here and nice to see you too.
Well, this concert, I was just reading the poster, being billed as an exploration of musical fractals through a cappella. Tell us more about that exploration and the fractals being explored. This sounds like a thesis, John, I have to tell you.
I knew you were going to go there right away. So, uh, this concert is really fascinating because you can't create it again. It's completely unique every time that we do it in rehearsal, and it's going to be completely unique on the day of the concert too. The reason for that is because a huge portion of the program involves a certain style of improvisation that the choristers are asked to do. Normally, what happens is they're given a cell, which is like a small number of notes or a small number of themes, and then they're expected to sing it in their own way, in their own time, at their own pace, like very, very freely, while the rest of the choir does something else, or sometimes the rest of the choir doesn't do anything else. And so what makes this really fascinating is that we can't really prepare for it. We're just we're we're rehearsing, but we're going along, uh, really learning that, huge portions of this concert are out of anyone's control except the individual singer. It's really cool.
Yeah, really cool indeed. What
Yeah.
about for you as the conductor of Polycoro? Are you relinquishing that element of control? Is that exciting to you? Is that tantalizing, or is this just kind of going with the flow and embracing it? What is your role as the conductor when you're doing this type of performance?
Well, my role is to direct whatever can be directed in the rest of the time to facilitate it happening. Sometimes, a cue is really necessary and sometimes it's not. We're doing it together as an ensemble as we've always done. Sometimes my role is super active, but it just depends on the repertoire. For this concert, my role is actually I'm singing, and it's more of a guide rather than a director.
Oh, really neat. So you talked
Yeah.
about those cells that often make up the music that is going to be programmed, and we're going to be getting to that music in just a minute or two. But I want to come back and circle back to this term fractal. I looked it up to give a shorter definition. This never-ending pattern, infinitely complex yet similar, and it's a term that's often applied in mathematics, in models, and in geometric shapes, galaxy formations, that kind of thing. Often a visual relationship, but in this case, an oral one. I just have to say, what a beautiful term to describe the contemporary music that is being showcased, a
And
musical
it
fractal.
and it's a fractal in more than one way. It's going to be it's going to represent a fractal in some ways on the day of the concert, because of the way the music represents it, but it also represents it over the course of the rehearsal process because it keeps getting more and more layers and
Mm.
getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't know if you ever saw any of those fractal programs. Probably not. I'm dating myself here, from the mid 90s or early 90s, where you could like punch in a couple of numbers and then a fractal would appear over a period of something like a minute, and suddenly you'd have this amazing shape in front of you. And that's kind of what's going on. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, really, it is totally captivating and fascinating. I was looking a little bit at the composers list here, and it is a very diverse but also a generous grouping of composers. How many composers are on this program? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't, but it's got to be like 10 or 12.
Yeah, it's double digits is what I was like
Yeah.
by my count. It's double digits.
Yeah.
I imagine you could squeak in so many onto this program just because of the varied lengths of the work, some short, others longer, but nothing overly lengthy. Is that how you could give such a generous offering of composers?
Yeah, I think the longest piece on the program is actually by Luke Nickel, which is a completely improvised work called White Fang Field Recording. Uh, it's really something. Um, but yeah, we're doing one piece by a bunch of different composers. So I really like that. It's sort of like an overview of what's being written today, or what's been written in, say, the last 5 years, almost everything on the concert is very, very current.
Yeah. Can you talk more about that side of things? I mean, one thing that I do want to address, if anyone's listening and thinking, oh, they're talking about fractals and these sort of aleatoric elements within the music, and thinking that this might be something rather modern or maybe something inaccessible. I have a feeling that isn't going to be the case, as someone who has attended past Polycoro shows and stuff. Can you talk more about that makeup of the concert and the general feel of the works?
It's interesting. I was talking with a friend of mine the other day, and that person was, talking about our programming and how good it is. And I, I guess I own some credit for that. I think another part of the credit I own for that is that I've learned over the years to be an increasingly picky eater, if you catch the metaphor. Um, I'm rarely these days interested in music that is not interesting to listen to and interesting to perform. And so that means that a lot of repertoire doesn't necessarily get on the program, especially if you're only doing like 2 or 3 concerts a year.
Mm-hmm.
There's just you have to go with the creme de la creme. You just have to, and a lot of the repertoire on this concert for tonight is like stuff that could easily be accessible to an ensemble, any ensemble, if they had enough time to work on it. We do it. We're doing, like, I think we did 4 rehearsals in total for this concert, which feels like a bit of a rushed affair. But it's also really exciting because we really have to come to the plate knowing exactly what's going on and getting to it right away. There are things on the program that are like really special, like Rita Ueda's Raindrops Footsteps is a fantastic atmospheric piece that really draws you in to a poignant feeling of sadness and melancholy, and also the letting go of mourning, which I think is something pretty topical considering the pandemic we've just gone through. Or Anna Sokolovich's fantastic work, Dring Dring, which is all about telephone sounds. Or rather specifically, cell phone sounds. It's really fascinating to watch how she constructed this fantastic work out of just sounds from handheld devices. Really, really smart. Just incredibly smart person. Really great writer.
You mentioned
Uh,
you mentioned the the sound of cell phones, the sound of rain in the Rita
mhm.
Ueda piece. That, I imagine, another part of the sort of fractal, if you will, right? Because there are contemporary sounds being used in these pieces. Are they all being created vocally, or are there pre-recorded sounds? How else is that working?
No, it's all vocal. There are only 2 spots where we're instructed to use any sort of instrument at all, if you can call them that. In Rita Ueda's piece, she asks for a pitch pipe note at
Mm-hmm.
one point, and in the Sokolovich, there's a glockenspiel, and
Hmm.
that's it. And the glockenspiel plays, I think, 3 bars, and the pitch pipe plays 1 note. So it's a completely a cappella concert. It's going to be wonderful.
I was looking at some of the teasers for this show, and there's been some really cool sort of visualizations. And one of the other composers on the program, Caroline Shaw, who's been no stranger to
Yeah,
Polycoro, you've sung her work before. I was totally
yeah.
absorbed by this visualization that is on Instagram and on Facebook. Um, can you tell us more about that sort of element, and how the visual kind of overlaps with the aural in this music that you're creating? Because it is a very immersive experience. You're going to be performing in the WAG. It's a very resonant space, and whether there's a literal visualization in front of you or a sort of mind's eye visualization, it seems to encourage that sort of creative thinking when listening to the music as an audience member.
There's a series of tableaus up on the walls at WAG by Wanda Coop, and they couldn't be more in line with the concert that we're giving. It's kind of eerie how that happened. So they represent what we're doing so well that we were actually considering standing under one painting per piece. I think there are 8 tableaus, and we had 10 pieces. So we were considering just moving the concert slowly
Mhm.
down the room, like they would have done, say, in churches for the Stations of the Cross or whatnot. In the end, we instead decided that we're going to perform in a circle right in the middle of the room, and the audience is going to be around us. So the audience can choose what they want to see while they're listening to us.
Oh, too cool. And it's all
Yeah.
going down tonight at the WAG. John, thanks so much for telling us a little bit more about Microcosm. It sounds like another fascinating Polycoro production. Appreciate you taking the time to chat with me at Classic 107 today.
You bet, Simon. Never a dull moment at Polycoro.
Ain't that the truth? You should put that on the banner or the business card. It's a
Never a
it's a
dull
good one.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Again, that concert is tonight at the Winnipeg Art Gallery. Concert begins at 7. You can find more details up on the Polycoro website or ours, classic107.com, under the events tab.